All right, so I think I screwed up the other video. Anyway, this is the MFJ model 9982, and it dubs itself as a 2.5 kilowatt continuous carrier antenna tuner. It's about twice as big as the 989C that I have. Let's see, I have two 989Cs. It's about double the size of this Heathkit 2060A, which is a pretty good tuner. It's about the size of an amplifier, more or less. I mean, this is about the size of probably what an 811H probably is. I don't know what I did with that other tuner. Okay. Oh, here is... This one's a junk tuner. You know, MFJ, they just, you know, they got like an incredible value for certain things. But it's not always worth it. But... So, here is a 989. This is, I paid too much money for this. I bought this tuner for $80, and the guy burned it up. And the meter was bad. He knew that he burned it up, and he knew the meter was bad, but what he told me was, he just said, I think there's something wrong with the roller inductor. That's all he said. And there we go. You see the difference? Okay, so this is a legal limit tuner. Maybe that's why that's a problem. They don't really handle legal limit. And it calls itself a 3 kilowatt. But what they do is just quite clever. Is in the handbook you'll see 3 kilowatts input power. Okay, we haven't rated things in input power since the early 80s. And so, for those of you guys that don't know, I know most of you guys on my channel probably know this because, you know, you're older. The input power is usually about half of what output power is. And they used to rate radios in input power. For example, the 102, I think, is rated at 295 watts input power. It's about half of that. Actually, it's more than that. The 101s were rated at like 265 watts input power. And they would do about 130, 150 out. So they rated it input power. They didn't actually tell you what they actually put out. So some of the older radios, like the early Kenwoods that were solid state, they were rated in input power. MFJ realized, we can call this a 3 kilowatt tuner by rating it at input power. And then its output power is 1.5, 1.2. So, this one here, I don't know how it's rated. But if that is actually 2.5 input power, it could be even less than half. So, but I just wanted to show you guys in comparison the size difference between these two. One of the things that they did that's really cool, though, is they got the capacitor higher up off the case. Everything is up higher. And that's the main problem what's wrong with this. This one, they arc across to the bottom, and you need to remove the capacitors and spray clear paint or put an insulator in between. And then make sure that you still ground the tabs that need to be grounded. So, anyway, this one actually, I restored it. It works good now, but the meter circuit's bad. And the guy blew it up really bad, and what I have on the back, you guys see here, is just a bypass for the ballon. We'll put this over here for now. So, if a guy wanted to spend some time and fiddle with this one, and then the corner of the plastic came up here, which gets really ugly on these because it leaves like this funny white look. So, but back to the adventure at hand. Okay, so this thing is not very smooth and it's kind of binding, and so what we did is, against my better judgment, I used a little bit of spray on it, and it is already working a lot better, but I got to get in here and clean it. And also, the other thing I found was that this rod here was bowed up, and what I did was I undid the screw, pushed down on the rod, and tightened it. And now it's still got a slight bow in it, but it's not like it was. That could possibly change because it looks like it's moving around probably, but there's several things wrong with this tuner. The part for the ladder line here, down there, it wasn't even soldered at all. There was solder on it, but they didn't make the connection. So, also, hold on. We were looking at the manual. There's a sticker on the bottom of this. We know that this is 2014-ish. And then we looked inside of it and saw an HRO receipt from 2014, and then we can look and see that it's a open box MFJ tuner. And this is not the name of the guy who owned the 3000. So the guy that had the 3000 most likely got this radio from this guy who got this thing open box in 2014. In August of 2014, which actually is really close to my birthday, and I believe I was buying myself a 949E MFJ tuner at that time. I had just gotten my general license, and I had a 40 meter dipole, and I wanted a tuner to tune it on other bands. And I was brand new. I didn't know nothing, except for my background in electronics. So, another thing about this particular tuner, it kind of operates a little strange. When we look at the schematic here, it comes in here. There's the sampling circuit for the forward. It has a true peak reading meter. I've tested it. It reads SWR incorrectly. It's not accurate. It does seem to read the peak pretty good, but put it on the dummy load, shows there's SWR. The radio says no, there's not. And I've tried a couple radios, and the radios seem to indicate the dummy load is pretty good. These can actually, drift in impedance or resistance or whatever you want to call it. They're supposed to be 50 or 52 ohms. Sometimes they'll be 57, sometimes they'll be 60, sometimes they'll be 70. And once you have a 70 ohm dummy load, you're no longer going to do anything right. So, but this needs to get messed with. But anyway, what's interesting, I decided to share this. These first three right here are going to be coax 1, 2, and then wire balance line. Okay? The other three are going to be the dummy load and coax 1 and 2 direct. There is no way to do direct wire or balance line on any of these tuners. The way that you do that is you just don't use the balanced thing here. This is not using a traditional type of deal. This is completely different. This is why I wanted to point this out. I don't know if this makes this better or worse. It has a 1-to-1 balun with 9 turns. And it goes through this balun in regular coax mode. And so the first 3 positions go through the balun, which then goes through your T-match. So here's your one of these. And these are kind of like what they call differential capacitors. One's over here, one's over here. There's, I don't know, split stator. I don't know what the hell you want to call it. It's not a butterfly capacitor. There's just 2 separate capacitors in each one. And they're both different size, so it's sort of strange. The design is strange because to me, usually, they're symmetrical. So this is not what I would call a symmetrical tuner. Because this one is a 500 and the other one's 1,000. I think normally they use like 680. I'll have to look it up, but anyway. A 6 microhenry edge wound roller inductor. And that's the root of my problem. So, when you have it on any of these, it goes through here. Then it goes out here to coax 1 or 2. What's the third one go to? The third one is for balance line. And it will come over here. And then you would be going through, I don't know how they got it. Where's the ground side? So, but for regular coax, I want a jumper across here, which is taking this other side of the ballon and grounding it, I guess. I don't know. Sort of strange. I think that's grounded. If we look back in here, we see that that is indeed grounded. And if we look back here at the jumper, that's grounding this wire. So, I don't know, it's sort of strange. Let me get a better look. So it's coming in on here. You can see our 3 connections right there. 1, 2, 3. And then on the other side, we don't have anything. We're not even using that part. So feeds into the red. The red goes all the way out here to your tuner part, and it goes over here, feeds across. Got those things. So the output's going to be into the blue right here. All the way to the ground. And then the other flip of the coins over here. I don't know where they got the rest of this. And they got it on the inductor, so it's kind of strange. Well, these are all connected together. That's the output. I don't know what they did. It's strange. I'm not sure how this works in theory because of the way this ballon is, but it's definitely a different approach. So it always feeds through here, no matter whether you want it to or not. But it's not transforming anything. But what I don't like is that's going to induce voltage or current in the other side of this. And then that end is going to the ground on the jumper and the other end. So, well, essentially, when this jumper is here, we've grounded both ends of the blue wire. But this still can act as a transformer. So I don't like that design. But it might be a good design, I don't know. But it wouldn't be something that I would want to design that way. I wouldn't want this thing in the circuit at all. Like, I don't see what the benefit of it is unless... The only time I would want the ballon in there is if I was going to use balanced line. I wouldn't want it running through it to use coax, but it does. So, anyway, enough about that. I don't think I would put anything more than legal limit through this. I'm not really sure what market they're trying to sell this to. I know there's other countries in the world that have pretty much no restrictions, or people can just do whatever they want. As quiet as it's kept, many people in the United States run well over the legal limit on the amateur radio bands. Pretty much any of you guys with an Alpha, or these new Lux amplifiers, or the Henrys with the big power supplies. A lot of you guys run way over the legal limit. And, I mean, I don't really care. Do whatever makes you happy. But, so then these guys run into problems because they have non-resonant antennas. They're trying to rely on a tuner. And most of the tuners are barely good enough for 1,000 watts. So, if you looked at this and you looked at inside this KW Matchbox, you'd crap your pants. If this is 2,500 watts, then this is 10,000 watts. Seriously, that's the difference. The capacitors in that thing are about 4 times the size of this. The input coil is at least double this. And it's just it's a coil. It's a a link. It's not variable. Anyway, if you look at a NY Viking tuner, the one that a lot of the guys like to use, it had something like this too, but it was about double the size. So it's pretty optimistic to rate it at that amount of power. But anyway, what we want to do today is just get this thing going good. So basically, I'll put a little lube on the inductor, and now it's nasty and dirty all over the rod, which means it was probably binding and had metal shavings in it and stuff like that. The thing I noticed, these gears all seem to warp in every single one of these. However, they usually still continue to work fine because the gears are nice and wide. So you can lubricate these here. I like to put petroleum in it because it's a little bit better, but you really don't want to be going in here and lubing this because it'll cause it to smoke. If they generate heat, it'll also cause it to short out and insulate. So I'm going to get in here with something and clean most of that off and then see how she does. So I'm going to need to try and calibrate the SWR on here. Here's a few adjustments here. And sometimes they're completely labeled, but in this case, they're not. And there might be something in the manual that makes it obvious to tell which one needs to be adjusted. Where did I just put the manual? Okay, underneath that paper. So sometimes they even tell you how to calibrate it. Well, this is the reflected one, so that's where we're having the trouble, but sometimes it's related to the forward one too. So it looks like there's two for each. R108 and R120 appear to be the forward. R108 is right there, and 120 is right there. So you got 101 and 19. That's 101 and 19. So I'm not sure what position that switch is in over there. But it's going to be high or low. So it goes through here to here to here to here to here, or it goes to there to there to there. So you can adjust it in two different places for reflected. So anyway, I'm going to finish this up and clean it up. I hope that maybe if you guys are having problems with any kind of MFJ antenna tuner, this kind of gives you an idea of some of the things that you might look for. And, you know, like always with these products, man, they, you know, don't really do quality work anymore. You know, look for stuff, you know, find wires that might be touching that shouldn't be touching. I mean, we look down in here and I'll show you, like, they did like horrible soldering in here, unless previous owner did that, you know, which is possible because I can see this right here that they replaced this with an LED. And that's, now that I look at it, that is not an MFJ kit. So they, and I don't know why it's exposed right through here. But you get a little bit of solder on it. So anyway, so somebody's been into this thing, so, you know, I'm sure they tried to make it work better. We'll catch you guys later. Thanks for watching.